Hi.
Hi, Teresa.
So I'm going to stall for a minute so we can just allow anyone else that's intending to come on back. I believe that includes Mr. Bennett. There he is. So I want to make sure that we've got everybody that we had before.
Yeah, I'd like a minute too, Mike. I need to find an email.
Okay.
Is Adam here?
Adam just texted me. He says his internet knocked me off and he is resetting the router. While we delay for the advisory committee and the town administrator, assistant town administrator to jump back on, I'll take the opportunity just to give a quick COVID-19 update because we really didn't take a whole lot of time prior to that. The daily status report for today will go out. I am compiling not a whole lot of updates other than some of the numbers are still continuing to increase on the national, state, and county level. I did get some responses back from the public on why we are not formally talking about Templeton numbers, and not that there's anger about it, but the Department of Public Health has put out to many of the communities that they wish communities to basically not publish those numbers. So as a stakeholder and a partner, we are following that guidance from the Department of Public Health. Emergency management continues to kind of plus up their operation. They've had members of the CERT in and out of the Emergency Operations Center down in the middle of Baldwinville. And they continually are working with our other agency partners to not so much solicit donations, but to manage the donations that we're getting in from the community. And we found that our stocks are actually kind of meeting, as we've heard earlier this morning from our public safety team, that the stocks are actually meeting the needs that we have right now. Short, as Chief Bennett said, short of a major jump in demand, we're actually going to be able to sustain operations with the current stocks of PPE or personal protective equipment as they stand. So one of the other priorities that we had was the food pantry, and Jackie Prime and the community services team have worked really hard to make sure that we're managing donations and managing staff. We have a lot of new volunteers over there. I believe they're working on trying to, and I might be wrong about this, expand their hours. However, their current hours of Tuesday and Thursday are still meeting the demand that we have within the community. They got 5 new volunteers, and they continually report back that they're making people happy, that they're kind of calming the nerves, so to speak. Critical staff, we're basically those 3 priorities that we have. We're actually doing well on staff as well. Everyone's maintaining the governor's requirements for safe distancing, working and otherwise, and we have not had any critical shortages in any area. Well, it looks like my stalling actually worked. It looks like we've got the advisory committee quorum back up. We've got our full briefing team for administration and finance with us. I'll remind everybody that if you're not briefing or you don't have a question, just stay on mute. We can help you manage that, but you just stay ready with that button. And one thing, as we get better at the Zoom platform, I'm not sure if people were aware, if you are on mute and you are using a computer, you can actually press and hold your space bar and it'll temporarily take you off mute. And when you let go of the space bar, it will put you back on mute. For the briefing team, how we will support you is we will go to your specific section. We'll make sure that we mention the page number of the budget book. The grid that you see on the computer right now will basically shrink over to the side, and your briefing budget page will become the front page for everyone, what everyone can see. How that translates over to our live stream is that people will see what you're briefing, and they will see just the person speaking up in the upper right-hand corner. Reviewing what TCTV had on from this morning, it actually, other than being a little bit fuzzy if you're trying to look at it on a phone, it actually comes out quite well. So kudos to everybody for preparing and participating on this platform. It's actually turning out to be a very good platform given the circumstances. Before our first briefer, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Assistant Town Administrator, Adam Lamontagne. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So far, the meeting, I think, went quite exceptionally near perfect, in my opinion. But you wanted to start off with the treasurer collector. Cheryl on the line?
Yeah.
Cheryl, thank you. If we can move to Cheryl's budget, which starts on page 73. This is Cheryl's narrative.
Yep.
And her
for every briefer, you're basically going to go over a quick synopsis of your office. I'll skip over to your manning, and then you can dive right into your budget sheets. Now, the schedule did call for advisory going first, but Tony had asked me to delay until he found some additional information. So we'll tuck him back in there in a moment.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, Cheryl, please take it away.
All right. Not sure what you want me to do here. Do you want me to go page by page on the budget?
No, I think the fact that we've got it up on the screen, people now just see what the treasurer collector does. I'll go ahead and I'll scroll to your manning. Anything you want to say about your manning, and then we'll move right into your budget sheet.
Yeah, we can just move right to the budget if you want. So the personnel didn't change a lot. We added some floating hours for like when I'm out for vacation or at school, so that we'll have full coverage in the office and not have to close. I think that was about the only change we made here.
Cheryl,
Yeah.
Are you currently fully staffed?
No, I have one part-time. She's the clerk. And we are still looking to fill the part-time position of the deputy collector.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that will happen soon. But I think that's, unless anybody has questions. Okay, for the support, this is mostly the cost of the schools, annual dues for the Worcester treasurer collector account, the Mass treasurer collector, then the school and the conferencing, any hotels and mileage that it would take to get there. And it covers 2 people. Hopefully the deputy collector will be willing to go to school, and they would be included in all of this as well. That's why there's 2 on a lot of these. I don't think there was any changes on this.
Excuse me, Cheryl, is that a yearly occurrence?
The memberships are, the school and the conference are, yes.
Thank you.
No further questions. We'll move on.
Okay. The next one's going to be the purchase of services. And this is the annual report to First Southwest. It's now called Hilltop. They are they provide the annual report and they help us with the bands. That's the company that does that. That increased $1,000 this year. I haven't seen, or last year, I haven't seen the new bill for this year. It should come in maybe this month or next month, and hopefully it won't have gone up again. Globe is the company that does our mailings for the excise bills and for the real estate and property tax bills. So the real estate and property goes out twice a year, and then excise, they just do the first one of the year. The rest are, we either print if it's a small batch, or the deputy collector, Jeffrey will print the bills for us for the commitments after the first one, and we'll mail them out. So there wasn't, the only change there was the First Southwest.
And Cheryl, you're good with the lump sum disallowed? That doesn't impact your services?
Yeah, that should be okay. I mean, it's just because we don't know what the demands and everything will be. You never know what it's going to be. So, we go by the best that we can. So I think we'll be okay there. Anybody have any questions?
Are you saying you just try to over budget a little so that you're prepared?
Well, no, we try to get as accurate as possible. Obviously, we go by last year's numbers. I don't want to really go over, too much. I don't want to be over adjusting for it.
Thank you.
Supplies. So this is just basically for the office. Postage stamps, I get envelopes that are prepaid, and we do go through a lot of envelopes, the checks for the warrant, and just miscellaneous stuff for the office, paper clips, Post-it notes, storage boxes, whatever we need. I think that note should have been taken off. That was from last year. I increased last year because we did go through quite a few. So this year is the same as last year. So I think the note should have been removed.
Okay, between Adam and I think Holly, we're capturing all the whether it be due out questions or changes to the budget book. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so
5,700.
the expenses, this went up quite a bit. We're trying to capture what we can now and move some of the delinquent taxes, get them moved into either foreclosure, or get them moved to the attorney, and start to get them processed so we can get these things off the books. The tax taking itself has increased each year I've been here. We have to advertise each one of those. I'm thinking this is going to be a bad year, obviously. So, I mean, hopefully this is more than enough, but that's the cost of each ad in the paper. And the Registry of Deeds has increased their fees for the first time in many years. It was $75 a piece to record these. Now it's $105. The tax taking attorney, we've started processing some. And unfortunately, a lot of the ones that have been there for many years need a lot of additional work and corrections to them because they weren't, taken as they should have originally. And the attorney needs to get involved and resubmit papers to the Registry of Deeds, re-advertise. We're working on that, and hopefully we can start getting some of these things off the list and back on the tax rolls. Land and low values. We can send property that's valued at $22,458 right now is the value. We can send those through a process that's a little less costly than going through the attorney And we can do those in a lump sum and send 5 or 6 at a time. We just got to do all the processing of the paperwork, make sure they were taken correctly. And hopefully we can start moving some of those little pieces of land and maybe get rid of those and sell them or to a butters, or if somebody can use the property, we can get those back on the tax roll as well. Let's see what else we got there. I think that's about it. The tailings is uncashed warrant checks. So if we send out a check and it either gets, for some reason, lost in the mail, someone gets it, doesn't cash it, that stays on the books as, you know, money that's due to someone. So we recently started advertising them. There's a process. We got to advertise it in increments. As we do it, we'll be able to pull, hopefully some of these people will come forward and claim this money, and we'll be able to get them so that we can get that money back to the town after we follow the process. It's going to take probably 3 years to get through them all. And some of these go back to 2002, 2003. So hopefully we can start getting rid of that. So that's just the advertisement for the next year. And the Mass Clean Water, that's for admin fees for 4 loans, 3 septic Title V's, and an upgrade to the wastewater facility. This comes out of the budget, but it's reimbursed by Light and Water. I think that
Cheryl.
covers that, if anybody's got questions.
Yeah, Cheryl, even though you put in $10,000 for the tax, for the tax taking, you have a lump sum disallow of 10,200. So how
Yeah.
are you going to be able to accomplish that?
Well, we'll do what we can. You know, as we go through it, it's finding things that need to be redone, and, you know, when it comes to it, we'll get through as many as we can and maybe move on, you know, move them to the next year if we have to.
If I could just interject there, as time progresses and we get closer to the tax recap, this is the one area where they allow us to raise this on the recap. And so by taking it out of the budget right now, we can kind of know as the year goes on that maybe by the fall we could raise a little bit more. This just kind of gives us a more conservative effort right now, so that there is the potential to raise that back on the recap.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other questions for Cheryl?
With that, Mr. Chairman, hearing no questions, if we could just have Cheryl go to the debt on our page 190. By looking at the debt, you can see some of that's falling off fiscal year 23 and 25. So we may be able to look at our capital needs. But with that, I'll give this to Cheryl. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And Cheryl was kind enough to put together the debt schedule for us, and she's working on updating that now. So, not sure, Cheryl, if you wanted to add anything to that, or
No, I think that's it. I mean, it's right now it's updated as of when we turn this in. We can add the new one on. I don't think it's been the one we just turned over. But try to keep this up to date, and
I know that the advisory committee was pretty happy to get that. So, good job with that.
I think
Many
that's it.
people in the town have been asking for a debt schedule for years. So to keep this updated would be much appreciated.
Definitely. Yep. That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, this is the page number that we wind up remembering. So when it's brought up at meetings or otherwise, remember the number 190.
Okay, I guess that covers me, unless anybody has any further questions.
Yes, concerning demands or the late notices,
Yep.
considering what's going on and what may happen as far as people working, you know, not working, all of that. Are you at least readying to waive demands if people say, hey, I'm not working, my tax bill is going to be, I can't pay on the 1st or things like that. So are you anticipating being ready to, as the collector, the one who makes those decisions, are you ready to do that in anticipation of trying to help out the townspeople in this particular, because, this is not a regular occurring thing.
Right. Well, the ones that just went out are they were due weeks before this had started. And I had left an additional 2 weeks, gave them an additional 2 weeks before they did go out. So at this point, we still have to follow the process. And right now, I mean, we had decided, Carter, Adam and I had all decided that they should go out because they were from weeks ago. At this point, we're not waiving them at this point. It's not to say that we won't. That would
I
have to
wasn't
be-
looking, I was looking forward to the final tax, but starting May 1st, those tax bills.
Right,
And
right.
because right now, people may still have the money, but as we go further out with people out of work, I'm just anticipating some financial hardships there. I can pay my tax bill, I just can't pay it on time.
Right.
And, with the demands just piling on, if we are anticipating already and looking at that to help out the residents.
Right.
Joe,
We
Joe, if I
would
could-
have to put it on unless it's decided by maybe, I don't know, DOR or someone. We do have to put a demand on real estate because that's the only way we can move forward with tax title. That is one of the legal implications of that. They have to have charged a demand. Doesn't mean we won't waive it, but we do have to do it and do the process and mail out the bills. But
And
it doesn't
on,
mean that we won't waive it.
and on top of what Cheryl just mentioned too, Jeff, and you know this, we're staying on top of all the legislation, any order that the governor were to issue, working closely with Cheryl and the team, we'll get through this. So I know it's a circumstances, this public health crisis are something that nobody's been down this road, and it changes by the hour, and we'll just stay on top of it. And I think Cheryl pretty much covered it.
It's just that, and that's what I was getting to, waiving the demand, not whether you have to actually put it in place, but barring any order or change from the Department of Revenue, the collector's the one that's going to be, the legal person to do that. So
Right.
if we're looking forward to, forward thinking,
Right.
perhaps waiving demands to help people out who otherwise may be, sunk. And that's my only thing is this, we're anticipating that perhaps happening.
Right. No, I totally understand. And, like I said, I just want people to realize that they may still get one, but we may have the option to waive it at that point, but they're still going to see it because it has to be done, but we may be able to waive it going forward. Definitely.
That's my point. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
And I just, to pile on to that, that's where I think that I would ask that the community stay in touch with the people that they have obligations to. If they just say, well, after the fact, yeah, I couldn't take care of that. It doesn't help us to understand what people may need. I know that there's been probably a good amount of online discussion about that. I just want people to understand. Give us the bad news now. Don't wait. And I'm sure that we'll try and have a balance of individual needs versus what the town can legally do.
All right.
So Mike and Cheryl, are you saying phone call, email, letter?
Either, all, other than going in and actually banging on her door. Because she won't answer. Yeah, anyway, Terry, for people to get to basically reach out, and that's where we can get involved to say if our team wasn't being responsive to that need, and I don't foresee that happening at all. We just want people to make sure that that they're identified.
All the numbers are on our Facebook and
Oh, yeah.
webpage.
Yep.
Mike,
All right. Yep, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question? I know Holly said we're limited to 40 minutes on Zoom and we're getting into our 40-minute time frame. If we get kicked out, we're not going to be able to get back on.
For Zoom?
Yeah, isn't that right, Holly?
No,
No, that was for the free account. This one is the TCTVs and they have unlimited.
Okay, so we'll stay
Yes.
on?
Yep,
Okay, thanks.
you're welcome.
all right, thank you, Cheryl. We're gonna move
All right.
on to.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thanks. Kelly, you're up. We are turning to page 57 of our budget book. I'll go ahead and throw that up on the screen. Kelly, if you can just give us a brief, overview of your department, the manning, and then you can go right into your budget line items. I'll follow right along.
My department is the one that is the anchor for the finances for the town. You know, I do a lot of work with the DOR of, you know, preparing reports and all of that, the free cash, trying to make sure everything, you know, the things are followed when people are sending in bills and that sort of thing. And, you know, there's a few things that worked on this year that have gone very well. You know, we've transitioned the benefits and all the HR to our office, and along with the insurance liabilities, the injured on duty claims, all of that kind of stuff. So all of that is now handled in our office. So it's worked out very well. And there's, you know, a learning curve. Sure, some of you know Nicole left. Thursday was her last day. Wednesday, I have a new employee, Rick, starting. So he'll be on full tilt learning, but I'm very confident he's going to fill that void very quickly. And it's just me and my assistant. And the budget is pretty much the same. I'm still getting the equity for Hubbardston, which isn't a lot. But you know, that's going very well. I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but from my perspective and, you know, from the people in Hubbardston, they're very grateful for the service and things are going very well. And then my assistant, the wage is not going to be when this was prepared. It was, you know, prepared with anticipation of Nicole staying. So the rate is a little lower for the new assistant. So there could be some money that could be, you know, split from that. This, like with Cheryl, this is all of our training that we have to do. We have the Mass Municipal Accountants and Auditors Association memberships. We have the fall conference, the certification school in Amherst in March, the summer conference at the Cape. And, you know, it's just, that's how it is. And we've got boot camp in there for Rick. I'm hoping I don't have to take it again, but you never know. We're not able to do the testing this fall because of the or this spring for the coronavirus. At this point, they've not indicated there will be any chance for a class or a time to take the test this year. But, you know, that could be subject to change if the, you know, things turn around. That's, you know, pretty much it.
When you say take the test, are you referring to it's a different for the conference down the Cape? Because I know they're asking people not to come to Martha's Vineyard right now because they don't have the.
Yeah, it's still part of the association. It's a certification test to show that you're a certified town accountant, which it has no bearing on any of our jobs or anything like that. It's just a certificate that says you've passed the test. It's extremely difficult. It's a two-part test. You have a legal section and you have a handwritten section, and it's they give you 2.5 hours to take the test, and it's taken me the full 2.5 hours the 2 times I've taken it. And most people it takes multiple times. And I don't test well. I never have through school. It's just a very, very tenuous situation. And like, last year, 60 people took the test and I think only 12 passed. So, that's kind of where it is. And, I do the best I can. And, but I think with how I've cleaned up the town and brought us to where we are, I think I've shown that I'm qualified without that piece of paper.
Kelly, if I could jump in for a second. I know we discussed the mileage for the 45 cents because we were following a different, but our financial management policy says in accordance with, I believe, the state at the top of my head. So we're following, it's lower than last fiscal year. We went down to the 45 cents. If you could just touch on that too.
Yeah, every year since I had started here, because I came in December and, I was told in, January that we follow the IRS mileage amount. And it wasn't until Carter was reviewing some information this year that he realized that that was incorrect and that we are to follow the Massachusetts rate, which is the 45 cents. So that has now been corrected for the FY21 budget.
Can I just jump in
Yes.
for a minute?
Mhm.
I've been here for, again, 2 terms and a quarter, and Kelly has cleaned up house along with her financial team. And I would like to show my support for her. And the test is very hard. And Kelly has proven that she can do the job.
Kelly is recognized by the state. She has helped the town go through this difficult financial time. No question. Thanks, Diane.
So
And she did get an approval from Mr. Roselli from the DOR too, that our town got a thumbs up on having her stay on and be solid for the town. So, and I don't always learn things the first time around. It takes me several times hearing it different ways, memorizing it, and before it's always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back for me to comprehend and put things in. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I agree with everybody. I just want to give Kelly the resources that she needs to continue doing the things that she's been doing.
Thank you. So is there any questions on the support? Okay. This is the purchase of services. A lot of the costs for me are set. The VADAR, the audit, the OPEB, those are all set costs. There's, that's just what they are. The paychecks payroll, we have the 350 is our weekly payroll that we pay now, and we're going bi-weekly in July. So that will be cut in half for the expenses. We do have, that's been added this year, is the ACA reporting through paychecks. This is a new reporting that has to be done on a yearly basis. We had many discussions over doing it on our own or having paychecks do it. And it was determined that it's worth this $4,000 because there's lots of fines that are implemented if you do it incorrectly. And $4,000 could probably be a cheap investment for if we screwed up something and it was discovered and then we were fined. Plus the time, it's a very time consuming report. And with all of the added responsibilities in my office to add one more thing, I just think would not be a good amount of our time. And then I have the tablet fees for the tablets that we have at the locations where people clock in and clock out. We've now had that a little over a full year, and that seems to have, it works very well. We don't have as many problems as we had with timesheets with departments, and that it's working very well. Any questions on that?
Yes,
Yes.
regarding the paychecks payroll amount,
Yes.
the 350.
Yes.
Is that the amount that to pay for the weekly payroll?
Right.
Is that what you said? So
Right.
in July, which will be fiscal 21, are we going to bi-weekly paychecks?
Right, and if you see the quantity is now 27 instead of the 52.
Okay, so the 350 doesn't get cut in half. It's the number of weeks that gets cut in half.
Correct. Because we're still, with any payroll company, we're billed for every little thing, every direct deposit, the checks, the processing, the delivery, everything is included. It's unfortunate, but that's just how payroll companies are.
No, I just wanted to be clear that the 350 wasn't going to be cut in half. It was just
Yeah.
the number of weeks.
The number of weeks, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that? Okay. My supply budget is pretty much the same. We, miscellaneous supplies, the 1099 processing, and the box of envelopes pre-stamped. I've never really had that in my budget, but I have found with now the retiree mailings, we have to do those twice a year to all the retirees for their benefits that, they're now, the insurance that they pay to us comes out of their Worcester Regional check. And unfortunately, Worcester Regional doesn't send them any information on their deductions. So we send that out to them so that they know exactly why their check is different. And give them an opportunity if they've got any questions to get back with us. And so we've been doing that. And there is, I'm finding more things throughout the year that I need to be sending. And bless Cheryl's heart, for the first couple years I would get her envelopes, but I figured that wasn't fair, so I needed to put some in for me. So
Any questions on 5400? All right, Kelly, I think that's it for your brief.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Looks like Terry, did you have a question?
Yes.
No, I'm just clapping.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, I'm ready to do the AC whenever, or if you want to let,
Come on.
I think Luann's next. If you want to let Luann go, I don't care. I'm here all day, so you guys aren't.
No, what I'd like to do is just, Tony, if I'll just put you right at the bottom, so it'll go Assessor, Town Clerk, Advisory Committee.
Okay.
Okay. Luann, you're up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mission statement, I work in the assessor's office for the Board of Assessors, and we're pretty much everything taxing. So, and everything starts in my office and flows on to the collector treasurer's office. Accomplishments this year was we were working on our revaluation, and the revaluation for the town got set and done. And we are also continuing with working on our cyclical inspections. Last year, we did the whole precinct of Waldenville, and this year I hope to do Otter River and maybe go into East Templeton. This is something that's required by our state every 9 years. So we're kind of working on the reval money. We do hire one gentleman to come in and do a lot of the work for us, and it's really paid off for the town, and we've really saved some money instead of outsourcing to our Vision Government Solutions. So that's our office goals for this year. I'm staffed with one full-timer myself and a part-timer who works up to 19 and a half hours. And then I have the Board of Assessors. Okay, as far as my budgets, my personnel this year, pretty much the total stayed the same. I do have my assistant's hours in there, and we also give my assistant an additional 5 weeks a year as I have 6 weeks vacation. So to compensate someone being in the office while I'm out, she is there. Also, recertification. I was recertified last year, and because of that, I get the additional $1,000 for my recertification. Also, this year I've worked for, and I have all my classes taken towards my recertification, which isn't actually till November of 2021. So any schooling and stuff I can cut if I have to, or if my admin needs to work, go to schooling, she can do that. So our personnel budget stayed the same. Our expense budget, that pretty much is that employee support is the same. Membership for my board and I through the MAO Association stayed the same amount. Education we did put in because if I don't go to some workshops that MAO offers, my assistant will go to those classes. Mileage, you do notice it went down to 185, which is fine. If you notice at the bottom, they also did a lump sum disallowed, so that kind of compensated for the difference in mileage. Most of the mileage I put in for is either when I have to go around town doing all my inspections for building permits and such, or when I go off to schooling. That's how I get my reimbursement for that. Notary Republic, Notary Public. I'm also a Notary Public in town. We offer this service free of charge to all town residents. My renewal isn't due up for another couple of years, so I won't have to renew that, which is good. We save the town money there. And I did put in for supplies because I do need booklets and stamps and such. So that's just to cover the supplies that I need for a notary. Any questions on that? Purchase of services. This is my one account that you will see an increase in. The Gardner News subscription this year went up $83, so that was increased into this year's budget. Also legal ads. I post the legals for our hearing, our tax rate hearing in November. So the legal ads at the Gardner News went up $25 more, so I had to increase that budget. Equipment repairs, I put in $250. I do have my own copiers and such that if anything breaks down, I have that to fix those. Vision Government Solution software is up to $72.21 this year. That's a little over $600. Vision's my real estate company that does everything real estate. It has all my cards, mapping, everything that has to do with the real estate program for billing. Cartographics mapping and support. That's the online mapping site that if you go to my webpage, you can click on that and go to an online mapping, which residents can use, real estate people use it, appraisers use it. It's a really good tool for people to go in and look and see and get mapping issues or any questions they have. The only thing that it doesn't have is like sketches and pictures of the properties, which I always tell people just to give the office a call back and fix it. So this year that did go up an extra $125 that I had to put into my budget. And record preservation is just some records that we do keep stored. It's a yearly charge that we're charged through the company, and that always stays at the flat rate of $55 a year. No questions? Okay. Supplies were no changes. I think we skipped past that. And the only other thing is other expenses, which would have been my postage and my Worcester Registry of Deeds, which was no changes. The thing Mike's flipping through now are just the increases showing the different budgets that had gone up. So office supplies remain the same as last year. And again, my other expenses, which is postage and for the Registry of Deeds, that pretty much stay the same as last year's budgets also.
If I can note, because I said this last year, I'll say it this year, Luann was the first to submit her budget. Again, thanks, Luann.
Thanks, Adam. The only other two things I did want to make note of is that I know we're not doing the warrant today, but there are two articles on the warrant. One is Article 3, which is a cleanup from last year's monies that the Department of Revenue required us to do a letter to them when the tax rate recap sheet was submitted by my Board of Assessors. So Carter did get a copy of the letter and it was sent to the state, and it is as Article 3 in the town special annual town meeting coming up in May or whenever so be. So I just want to let you know on that one. And the second one was my article, I want to say 18, Article 18, which is for my property revaluation. And this is just a housekeeping article every year that my Board of Assessors submits. This year we dropped it down to $22,500. It's just money we have to put away every year. So when the town's due for another revaluation or cyclical valuation, we don't come to the town and ask them for $75,000 or $100,000 to budget that. Also, the department, the Board of Assessors has saved the town a substantial amount of money by pulling a lot of this work into our office. So we're going out and doing a lot of this. That's why we're able to keep that figure down too. And does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Luann.
Thanks, Diane.
Thanks, Luann. If there are no questions, then thank you for briefing, and we are moving on to Town Clerk Carol Harris.
Thanks, Mike.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Carol.
Good afternoon, Carol.
Carol, I've got your section up. We are on page 82 for anyone following along.
Okay, so this is my mission statement. Pretty much self-explanatory. As far as page 85, personnel. So there is a slight increase on this page, and that is due to the minimum wage increase for my poll workers and my wardens and clerks for the town meetings. And that's what this page is all about. And the next page. This one stayed the same as last year. This is the dues, and this is for conferences to keep up with my certification. But everything pretty much stayed the same. And the next page. And this one also basically stayed the same. This is the cost for our ballots, for programming the machines, for dog licenses, our dog programs, and all of our annual fees for the equipment that we have. And the next page is office supplies. This had an increase. The cost of the dog licenses have increased, and the number of dogs that are actually being licensed is increased. The animal control has been doing a good job as far as getting people in line, and if we do have delinquent dogs, that they're actually taking action. So we are seeing more dogs being licensed. And that's what the increase is. And the street list book has also increased.
Okay, 5,400 is the town clerk's last page. Are there any questions for Carol?
Just a quick one. It's on the page 85 in a note down the bottom.
Yeah.
It says, subject to town meeting approval. Is there a warrant that they're going to have to vote on? $1.80 closes gap to medium. So you're saying we have to vote on that?
Yeah, actually, it's not going to be $1.80. It's going to be 58 cents is what the town administrator said he could afford. So that will be on a town meeting warrant article. My salary needs to be approved at town meeting.
Do we have a number on that warrant?
If I could jump in here, Carol, you're gonna have to vote on the warrant article for, I believe it's the town clerk, the sewer commissioners, and the board of selectmen.
Right, any elected position that receives a pay.
Correct. If not, Carol, I think you were lightning today.
Right. I like to just, get to the point. Any questions?
Looks like you're good to go, Carol. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Have a
And
good day.
You too.
You stay safe as well.
We are only running a few minutes behind right now. Looks like we have our community services queuing up behind us. I'd like for everybody to turn to page 53, and we have Tony DeJoy briefing the advisory committee budget.
Mike, you bring that up on the screen. Okay, as of right now, we're down to 6 members. We do have a person interested in joining. I think we're going to try to have our meeting via Zoom Thursday. I've got to poll everybody to see if we can at least get a quorum. And at that time, we'll maybe try to appoint a seventh member. Nothing really changed from last year on this. Unless any of the dues went up, it's pretty much the same. The only difference is we took out Vadar. We kind of, as a group, collectively realized we don't really use it, so we've kind of given $700 back into the town to not use Vadar. Okay. Our town meeting ads, like everything that's gone up, we anticipate no more than 3. We did have 3 last year because of all the nonsense with the school. So that's that. Next. Office supplies, very minimal. Next. So our emergency reserve, we had requested the 52.5, but they only allowed 47. It's kind of one of those funds that you don't know how much you're going to use until you use it. So the last few years, it hasn't been used a lot, which is a good thing. But we obviously, we have a formula that we're trying to get to, but we're not quite there yet. So each year we kind of want to increase this. If we don't use it, it goes into free cash. So, but you never know when a town emergency comes up. Take COVID, for example. If some departments needed some funding based on this, until such time it could get paid back, this fund could be used for that. So, so right now we'll live with the 47.5. Next. I think that's it. Oh, and if you see on the bottom, kind of what we've used, 18, 19, and 20. But then you do look at years, 15, 16, 17 with quite a bit of expenditures. So it's just sort of a unknown when you're going to really need a lot of money.
I would like to make note that those years that we used a lot of money was during the financial crisis.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate you hanging on with that one. Okay, that takes care of administration and finance. Thank you, team. I'm going to call up our schedule to see where we're at. Oh, wrong button. Yeah. Okay, we're only about 8 minutes behind. We've gone through administration and finance, advisory committee, treasurer, collector, accountant, assessor, town clerk. And it looks like we've got our community services team queued up for that team. Let's see. We've got, I can see Jackie. I'm not sure who Galaxy A5, oh, now I know who it is. So first up is library. Jackie, I'll let you know what I've been doing is putting up the budget book so everyone can see it. You've seen kind of the process for it. You can quickly just say what that service is, how it's manned, and then we just go right into the budget sheets. The team has been very good about cutting in with questions or otherwise. It's actually been quite a good process so far. Sorry, I'm typing. And let's see, anyone know the page number? I've kind of managing a few different things right now. Library is what page?
168.
All right, I'll click this, I'll click that, and we are about ready. Jackie, it's all you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Jackie?
Hi.
Hi, Jack.
So the library obviously is a place where people can come and borrow books, materials, access internet, all for free. As far as our staffing, there's myself and 2 library assistants. The library is currently open 30 hours a week, so we pretty much have at least 2 people on staff during all of our open hours. Some of our goals for this fiscal year included the beginning of the renovation for the building. We recall we were left a sum of money by the Nord forces when they passed away, and the preliminary work has been done this year on the roof. We did the architectural study, and that took some time, and we hope to get the roof started in the spring. I don't know how this is all going to impact that. I talked to Bob a few days ago, and he thought we should still be pretty much on track to do that. Our homework club never got off the ground because we weren't able to secure some kids from the high school to help us with that, but we're going to take another stab at that next year. And the quarterly e-newsletter is also something we're going to try to get accomplished in fiscal year 21. So moving on to 170, which is personnel. Again, it's myself, 2 library assistants. You'll notice that library assistant 2 position, we needed to account for the change in minimum wage there. So, and on the left, you'll see a term called the municipal appropriation requirement, and that pretty much drives our budget. That is what it's based on, a formula that the state gives to public libraries to make sure that their appropriation from their towns is adequate. And it, like I said, it drives our budget every year. It basically is 2.5% over the average of the last 3 years appropriations. So that figure right there is the requirement, and our total budget amounts to about $200 more than that. So we really try to stay very close to that so it doesn't increase in leaps and bounds. And again, it affords us that reciprocal borrowing and some state aid money. On page 171, our employee support, we belong to the Mass Library Association, which provides us a lot of great resources. And it's just not a very big amount for training because I try to attend a lot of webinars, a lot of directors roundtables where information and ideas are exchanged, and neither one of those costs anything, so that's good. On the next page, 172, our CW Mars membership, and which, being a full circulating member of that, has just streamlined everything. I wish we had done it 10 years ago. It's really been wonderful. So, and our post office box fees. And the last page is supplies, which the books, magazines, and AV materials is also a piece of the requirement for certification. We need to spend at least 19% of our total appropriation on those items, things that our patrons can borrow, and office supplies. So does anyone have any questions about the library side of things?
Just quickly, is Farmers Market a part of the library? Because that was such a huge, important accomplishment, and it is going to be such an amazing asset to our community going forward. With all the reading that I've been doing, that I really can't commend you enough on that.
Thank you. Thank you. It was, I kept saying it was a small but enthusiastic debut. And the farmers market is not a part of the library budget. I'm having a large banner made up that we can place somewhere on the common, just reminding people that farmers market will hopefully take place every Thursday afternoon, and that the funding for anything farmers market will come out of our community services revolving fund. So, but it really, you know, I think once it really gets established, there won't really be too much of a cost associated with it, you know. So thank you. I was really happy with last year too.
I think it's huge.
Okay, there are no further questions on library. We'll move into veteran services.
Just,
Oh,
just
sorry.
one thing to remind people that by keeping that little Templeton library open, people are able to access and get books from far and wide without having to physically go to those other libraries. That little library staying open and being certified allows that to happen. And it's a very good benefit to the town. And I just like to remind people about that each and every budget year.
Yeah.
Because it is, that little library gives you access to a lot of things.
Terry?
May I please add that the little library is huge now. It is more valuable than ever with the World Wide Web and the webinars. You can access things around the world and run classes for people online as far as disaster preparedness. I can't say how much more valuable libraries and librarians hosting things for their communities. They have their work cut out for them in this technological age coming forward, for people that to stay informed and to help people that can't afford to pay for things to be informed.
That little library can be some people's only place of social interaction.
True.
And Jackie does a good job with the story hour. And that's how moms get out and meet other moms, and kids get out and meet other kids, not unlike the senior center. So it's that the community services director and everything that falls under Jackie is our forward-facing community hosts. That's how our town is. That's our public-facing community. That's what community services mean. That's our forward-facing public relations, is the library and the veterans, and it is very important, Jackie's job. And I commend her for all that she does. But that little library, not, like I said, not unlike veterans and the senior center, is a place for social interaction as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Diane, Terry, and Jeff. Jackie, thank you for your brief. I know you're standing by to do a little bit more. We're going to transition to veteran services. We have our Veteran Services Officer Director, Sheila Pelletier. Just for those following along at home, we are on page 150. Sheila, I'll bring up your budget sheet.
Thank you. All right, I'm the Director of Veteran Services. As you know, I handle any questions that veterans have. I manage the Chapter 115 state program, as well as working with veterans to file their VA claims. I answer any questions that they have as well. You'll see at the bottom of page 150 that my fiscal year 20 goals, I just wanted to point out to you that because I was advocating for my resource fair so diligently this year, that I actually am taking part in 3 different resource fairs, one in Gardner, one in Hubbardston, as well as the one that we're hosting here in Templeton. And that was just by making contacts to our area VSOs. So I think that's really good that we're working on that and getting our relationships in our local communities, starting to see what Templeton's doing, and they want to be a part of that. For fiscal year 21, we're going to complete that Veterans Park. That is still continuing to move forward. I think it's going to be better than it was last year, so I really have welcomed this extra year for planning and to really get some more participation. We're again hosting the annual Veterans Resource Fair. This year we went not only to our Veterans Luncheon, but we also worked with ClearPath to get a coffee social, a weekly coffee social. And we partnered with Building Bridges to enhance our veterans luncheon. My primary focus this year will be to work with the cemetery department to get a veterans registration role started and to continue it. So as you see on the next screen, I'm the Veteran Service Director and I work part-time. And I work under Jackie. For personnel on the screen that you see now, you'll see, again, I work part-time and Jackie assists me an hour a week. There's really no changes from last year on that screen. The next one is the employee support. The changes from last year is that you'll see on line 5, the WCV SAA annual membership fee. I'm sorry, one below that, the NAC VSO. So the first one is the Massachusetts, the second one is Worcester County, but this last one is a national accreditation, Association of County Veteran Service Officers. And I took my exam this year, I passed, and I'm now able to speak directly to the VA on any of my veterans issues. And it's through this organization that allows me to do that. On the next screen, the purchases of service. This fiscal 2020, I was approved to get the VetraSpec program that allows me to put in VA claims directly to VA. And there's a $449 yearly maintenance fee on that. It actually takes my 4 or 5 hours that it takes me to do forms, and it brings it down to about an hour to 2 hours, and they're able to digitally sign. So before they walk out of the office, I can guarantee them that that form, all those forms have been submitted. So that's a huge plus for us. The next screen is supplies. You'll see an increase here. I do want to do a outreach to our veterans to let them know about all the services that are out there and to introduce the programs that the town has to offer, as well as local nonprofits that they can tap into. So I found this year that my postage didn't go as far as I wanted it to, so I've increased it. And then the last one is for my Chapter 115 benefits. And again, that's a projection. It's ever moving. I get people and then I lose people from moving to different towns or the adjustments that are made. So that was based off of 3 or 4 years. And then what I projected this year to next year. Mike, I saw you circling the disallowed for 20,000. So
Yep, I just want to make sure that people are aware that, this is a process, so we can plan. But I just want to make sure that we're looking at the balancing going on as we move through. So I don't know if you want to, if you or Adam or Jackie want to mention anything about that, or we can just move on to any.
So there was a disallowance of $20,000 that the town administrator thought that we wouldn't be spending, and that the 80,000 more accurately reflected what we've been spending. However, the 100,000 does reflect. I add 2 burials, which are 4,000 a piece, and then, like I said, I take the total over the last, ever since we started this program, and I try to come up with what I feel we may be spending. So as I said, it's a moving target because people come and people go, and the amounts, I have people that get medical only to people who actually get, over $1,000 a month. So you can't really accurately reflect what next year is going to bring us, but we try to do our best.
I'm concerned about that number in the lump sum disallow.
Well, if I could jump in here, Adam, I did sit down and I talked with Sheila a few times. She did some projections, and quite frankly, we feel comfortable with the $80,000. If, let's say, 2 funerals were to occur, we don't want to budget necessarily. We want to get the closest number we could get, but worst comes to worst, that could always be backfilled. So we feel comfortable, Mr. Terenzini and both of us working on it, that 80,000 should be sufficient.
Adam, how are you going to backfill that?
That would be a fall town meeting. If Sheila felt like, let's say she had 3 funerals happen, something unexpected, then we could always backfill that at the fall town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Diane, I can see what they're doing there. All the different tools that we have in our toolkit for managing who's not spending money and who needs it. I think that's I wouldn't say it's a great plan, but it's a good plan moving forward when they acknowledge that it's such a moving target.
Mike, this is Tony. I have a question.
Yep. Go
Hi,
ahead, Sean.
Sheila. Hi, Sheila. Tony DeJoy. Where do you get your list of veterans from?
My full list of veterans are the ones that are qualified for
Your
Chapter
full,
150.
full list.
So when people fill out their census for the town, there's an opportunity to check whether they're a veteran or not, and that's where the list comes from.
Okay.
So if you don't check veterans, I wouldn't know that you're a veteran.
Okay. I don't know if I did. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for Sheila? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Sheila. We're going to move on to senior services.
Hi again. Senior Services is a department which advocates for and reaches out to this town senior population, which it's a significant percentage of the population in Templeton. The staffing level on page 158 is myself. I am planning to be over at the senior center more hours this coming fiscal year than last year. The services coordinator, the activities coordinator, and we're hoping to fill the administrative assistant, which we just created. Hopefully, I'm doing some phone interviews next week. And I kind of rewrote the title and the job description because I see this person as being sort of as cross-training with the services coordinator and activities, so that, you know, he or she kind of has a handle in what both of those positions do. So, and on page 159, that's just a breakdown of the staffing. The MART drivers, we kind of scaled back a little bit on that from last year because we are finding that the ridership is steadily decreasing. Anybody's guess as to why, but we feel that we're good with that number for the drivers' salaries. The Meals on Wheels is not in this, our Meals on Wheels driver is not reflected in here because, as you remember, we partnered with Gamma at the beginning of March to take over the delivery of those meals, which was not going to be at a cost to us. Unfortunately, with the current health crisis, Gamma has shut down that part of their operations. So we have had to bring our driver back on board. So that's sort of a big question mark right now, what's going to happen with that. And I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The next page is, okay, this kind of just breaks down as, well, the previous page broke down a few of the things that I just touched on as far as the overall budget in senior services being about $32,000 less this year. And that's, I don't want to give the impression that services are being lessened, because they're not. It's just a kind of a reorganization. The fact that we are no longer, we are not filling the position of director, that's a savings right there. So
Yeah. And I mean, just lifeline wise, you're 100% right. I don't even think you have to try and rephrase it or otherwise. There's, it's been a tumultuous year trying to basically maximize the services that we give and restructuring personnel coming out of a very difficult budget crisis that we had last year. And it was directly, the police, the fire, they had to restructure. We had to take a look at the things that cost us the most money and try and find those efficiencies. And now you're briefing basically the way forward through that. So I don't think it's gloomy at all. I think it's just a different direction that we've had to take with trying to maximize and keep those services.
right. Yep. On page 162, this is employee support. The MCOA is Mass Council on Aging. So they offer a lot of workshops, seminars, and that's a valuable resource. Our license to show movies, the cell phones for the drivers, and the conference. And down at the bottom where it says supplement with the formula grant, the formula grant is a grant that we get that is based it's a dollar figure based on the number of seniors in our town. So and it has certain restrictions as far as what it can be expended upon, but it goes a long way to supplement the town appropriation. So on the next page, 163, the software that the senior center uses is valuable in helping us to collect statistics. Some of the programs that Alicia's got going on there, have a little cost to them with instructors. And we added a line item this year for miscellaneous activities, because again, some of the activities and programs that Alicia would like to put in place don't fall under the umbrella of what the formula grant can be used for. So the next page, 164, is just sort of housekeeping, the supplies and postage and refreshments. And I just wanted to sort of touch quickly on some of the goals that we have for this coming fiscal year at the senior center. We are hoping to create a community garden. There are, if you're familiar with the area, there are 6, I think, really good sized raised beds. So we want to get those cleaned out, get some people involved in helping to plant vegetables, flowers. I'm actually writing a grant from the AARP to hopefully get us some seed money for that. We want to expand our offerings, and we want to start a kind of a check-in program where we compile a list of seniors that may be alone or isolated, and we make sure they get a phone call every day or two just to check in on them and make sure everything's okay, and identify anything they might need. So does anyone have any questions about the senior services budget?
Jackie, not about really the budget per se, but before Corona crashed the party, how had the activities at the senior center been going? Had more people been showing up, or has it been steady, or how had that been working most of the year?
That's a good question. They Sue and Alicia have been telling me, as you say, prior to this health emergency, that they were seeing increased numbers in visitors, in their attendance at programs. So that's a good thing. I think that, you know, they're always trying to, Alicia's always trying to change things up, and she comes up with some really neat ideas. So yeah, if you've ever been over there during programs, it's really, you know, they get quite a crowd. So hopefully that'll be the case when this is all over too. So
Thank you, Jackie.
Just a quick question, Jackie. You mentioned a reach out with the police to check on the seniors. Is there anything happening now in this day of social distancing?
yes, we have, Sue and Alicia and myself have compiled a list of seniors. We've gone through the whole list of seniors in town and kind of picked out from there the people that we maybe have concerns about, and Sue and Alicia are calling them. They made an initial call last week to just let them know this is what we're doing. Don't be alarmed. Would you like to receive a phone call? And what frequency would you like to receive a phone call? Every couple of days, once a week type of thing. And they're asking about things like, you know, whether they feel they have, you know, access to food, an adequate supply of food, what other kinds of issues they might have during this time. So it's, our program will just kind of, you know, stem from there. That's the whole idea behind it, is just checking in on people.
I would like to say that I commend the work that the senior center does, and that it's a great place for them to go and be together, and to the activities I hear great things about. And the dance with the police is always a wonderful reception. And the tour around the world, I heard, is wonderful.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of the other programs too. And just for the social distancing must be very difficult for them, and because it's a place to connect. So I commend the programs that you do.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions on senior services, we will move into recreation. Jackie, are you briefing that, or is Scott coming on the line?
I'm not sure if Scott is here. I texted him and he said he was, but
There is one identified line that we can see, a telephone number 860 ending in 903. Not sure who that is, but if Scott's not on the line, we can either bypass or you can brief it.
I think you bring up a good point. Why don't we go to, is Steve available to do cable right now?
Steve is looking.
Hey, this is
center.
Hello.
Yeah, he's right in the middle.
Hello.
I think, Scott, you there?
Yeah, this is me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so Scott's available, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. I'm gonna change his name on there. So I guess my first question, Scott, what page would you like me to start? You had some proposal information in the budget book, and then your actual budget detail starts on 186. So would you like me to start with anything prior to your budget sheet?
We can jump right into the budget because there's quite a lot of information to go through on those first cases. So we can just jump into the budget, then we can backfill any questions on there. We can refer back to that document if we need to.
I can do that. And if you're on the phone, just so you know, everyone will, not only does everybody have a copy of the budget book, but I'm basically streaming live the stuff that you're talking through.
Sure.
All right, so I'm gonna bring up page 186 in the budget book. Stand by. And we're there. Go
okay.
for it. This is, and for anyone who's listening, they can hear you on the live stream, Scott. They just can't see your placeholder on the screen. So that's Scott Dill with Recreation Services.
Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, this is Scott Dill from the Recreation Department. Our budget this year will dramatically change. It hasn't changed in the last 4 or 5 years, I believe, it's been a steady $9,500 budget. That's been just the same old budget for year after year after year. With a budget change, there's reasons behind it, and I think there was a need for this budget change. You know, talking with Adam when he's come on board to the town, and we saw a great need to keep up with the times. I mean, recreation's just been a low-hanging fruit on the tree for many, many years, and when I've taken over the last 3 years, it's exploded. And you know, communicating with other towns and seeing things that they do, and we're just really, really behind the times. With Templeton's youth growing and the number of people coming into town, and you know, the people trying to get into our schools and so forth, recreation is a huge growing point for our town. Just like the ending point with senior centers, you know, we're the beginning in senior services and the end of the library. So we all fall under that grouping. So the budget needed to change, and we need to make a lot of changes. And the Westfield State survey that came out and the study was tremendous. It was something that we've needed for a lot of years, and it definitely opened up our eyes. So going into the budget, you're going to see a dramatic increase. It went from $9,500 to almost $43,000. A lot of that will be supported through our community revolving account, so it will not hit the tax base. And the only article that we're requesting money is to seed pretty much the new position in town, which will be a 19-hour position to oversee the recreation department. This person will take on the role of keeping our financial policies in line, making sure that we're compliant with all DOR regulations, where this was never happened in the town of Templeton. There was no controls in place to control the finances that come in through user fees and programs and so forth. Now there is, and we want to keep that good faith going with the DOR. And this person will oversee all recreation activities through movies in the park, through all sports, youth and adult sports activities. They'll control the financial part of it, and they will answer to you, the Board of Selectmen, and the Recreation Committee. We've done it through volunteer basis, and it's tough because they're volunteers, so we really can't hold them to the financial policies that we need to, and the controls in place will be a lot more stringent now that it's under the town's umbrella. So that's a big jump in our budget, and you know, we definitely will support it through this revolving account because of this person being on board. We'll be able to offer more. So, you know, we're looking for some seed money to get it going, but once then we'll sustain through the revolving account. Summer camp is the next big initiative. We're looking to hire 8 summer counselors. Summer camp hasn't been in Templeton, correct me if I'm wrong, for the last 6 or 7 years, and it was done at the old TC Elementary School. The reason we want to bring this back is there is no summer program except for the Narragansett Regional School District, which offers extended day. But our thinking is that, you know, these kids are in school 180 days. They don't need to be in school all summer long, stuck inside, doing pretty much just a little bit of playground at what they had, and then mostly inside interactive things in school. So we want to get them outside. We want to get them away from the tablets, and especially after Corona has ruined our dance for a little while. You know, when this finally does break, and it will break, we need to get the kids back outside and interacting with each other and enjoying nature and being active again. So that's a big part of my budget, to hire the 8 counselors, to hire a summer director. You'll see all that, but that will be supported through the revolving account. So there's no tax impact on the town to do this. So we just need that seed money of the $7,500 to get this going, and then we will support itself from there. That's pretty much the meat of my budget. We did take out the supplies and so forth that we've always carried in our budget because that can be reported through our revolving account. So we will live through that revolving account, which is the best thing that's ever happened to the recreation department, because it helps the community services. It helps all of us, the library, the farmer's market, the recreation. We all live through that account, which is not a tax impact on the town. Any questions on that?
I just have a quick one. I noticed that the recreation activities coordinator was budgeted in for 19 hours, and it seems like the administrator recommended that budget from down from 18,900 to 7,500. Is that still doable?
Yes, the reason for that is that's just the seed money to get the program going, to get that person up and trained, to get the summer coordinator up and trained. They will stay at that $18,000 range because it'll be 19 hours a week, so that's just to get it going. So that's what's on the warrant for the next meeting when that doesn't happen. But once that $7,500 is seated, we are on our own, and we'll reevaluate that every year. If we need to go up, we'll go up. If we need to go back down, we'll go back down.
But Scott, if I think what Terry's asking is that if you look at the book, 18,939, that money, that's going to be the pay, Terry. It's just the 7,500 is coming from the operating budget, but the rest is coming from the community services revolving fund.
Is anyone else experiencing chop voices? My voice is coming across as chop.
It is a little bit choppy. I did not have a problem understanding either Scott or Adam. I think maybe it might be on your end, but you are coming through a little bit broken, but we did understand your question.
Is there any other questions on that part of the budget?
No, Scott, let's move on to the 5110 employee support.
Hold on, I'm just getting back up to speed on that page.
So we're moving from page 186 to 187.
Okay. Okay. Nothing has changed much on that page at all. Those pretty much stay the same. Page 188, pretty much nothing has changed on that. 189, that's where you'll see some changes. We've taken out the supplies that was always in the tax base. Now that we come out of the revolving account, the only one that will stay will be swimming for supplies, and that's just $100. We've taken all that out and we've rolled it into the revolving account. And that's pretty much the end of my budget.
Okay, thank you for that. If there are any questions on the budget, Scott, I want to give you any opportunities for the other materials that you had that were submitted in the FY21 budget pack.
Yeah, we can go back. I mean, there's just a business plan in there, what we want to do with the summer program, why we want to do the summer program, pretty much like I talked about. It's been quiet for X amount of years, and I think, with the Westfield State study, it kind of opened our eyes, and we definitely need to expand our opportunities here in town for youth and adults. And I think Diane had brought it up, these youth sports, moms and dads can come and interact, and it's the only time for these parents to interact besides, social media. Or so it's a live chance to go sit out and watch a soccer game or a basketball game or a softball game and, enjoy the nice weather and actually have human interaction, which is going to be crucial coming up once this virus goes away. So I think, by having the summer camp, I think the timing will be perfect. This will hopefully be gone, and what a better time to roll out a summer camp and get back to life.
Scott, you couldn't have, I thought you did a great job presenting.
Scott,
Thank you.
that was really well put together and addressed a lot of needs for the community, especially based on the Westfield State presentation and a lot of great ideas that you've had over the years. And it really is a place for parents to come together and not feel the pressure of sports.
Agreed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
like I said, there's other things in the, concerts in the park and movies in the park, and that's what this director will be in charge of, and fundraising and the things that, our volunteers have done a great job, but they're volunteers and they work 40, 50 hours a week. And this person will have 19 hours a week to really dive in and find opportunities that we just can't have, we don't have the time for. And this person will have the time, and we'll hold them accountable for fluctuations in numbers and because that revolving account has to support not only their pay, but the summer camps and supplies. And if that number drops, we need to.
I think you're going to find that 19 hours is not going to be enough.
I agree. And it's a starting point. And like I said, this is all new to us. So we don't know until we actually get through our first year and see where we need to grow. And like you said, we have to live off the revolving account. So we have to make sure that we grow from there. And we're going to push that first year hard to make sure that we're sustainable.
Right. I just think that 19 hours is, and all the things that that person is going to be responsible for is going to be a little bit of time for a lot of responsibility.
You're right. I agree.
Got to start somewhere. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and time will tell. I mean,
I'm not saying not to start, Terry. I'm saying it's a lot of responsibility for a little bit of time. I know you have to start somewhere, but it is a lot of responsibility.
Like I said, we'll know, we'll have a better gauge after this year. And if the workload is way too much and we're not growing, then that's a problem. I mean, then we definitely need to sit down at next year's budget and then say, okay, we need to increase this because we've lost a lot of opportunities.
But Scott will be keeping a close eye on that. I mean, he comes in the office and talks regularly with Mr. Terenzini, Holly, and all of us. So we'll keep an eye on that. And with that, I think Scott's pretty much covered everything, unless there's any other questions.
I think that I would like to commend Scott. He puts in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and he probably puts in about 80 hours a week and has a big, a family as well. And this consumes a lot of his time, as he can probably attest. And he comes up with a lot of great ideas, and I commend him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Great. Last up for community services is TCTV cable. Mr. Castle is with us. Steve, you've probably been watching all since we've started this morning, so you know basically the process. Following along in the budget book, I'm at 286. When you're ready to go, I'll go ahead and I'll broadcast your report.
Go ahead, Mike. How's everyone doing today?
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve. I'm fine. How are you?
You doing, Mr. Castle?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Be a little bit better in a couple hours. I think Terry gets the award for most comfortable looking. And I want to be there in a couple hours and switch from binge watching budget meetings to binge watching something else, maybe. I don't know. So I think you know what our mission is, and we've become an information and cultural resource for Templeton. And, I think this week, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but it's indicative of what we can do, not just for government, but for the whole community. If somebody has a media need and wants, if the Lions Club needs a slide notice for an Easter egg hunt, or if a restaurant wants to do a show to promote themselves to our community, or if somebody wants to send a birthday greeting on our slideshow to Uncle Gus, we can service those people. We can even do digital conversions from VHS to DVD and hopefully some other things too. So I think that we can provide a lot of services in media for the community, as well as give young people and others opportunities in media to form careers and stepping stones into other things. And I think that that's an important part of economic development, just as getting commercial land in the hands of businesses and industries is, and it helps build resilience as well, because then if something happens, we have that. So I'm really proud of our staff, and if there are any questions about the narrative, I know I covered a lot in there, but please shoot.
Steve, this is Mike. I've got up on the screen right now retained earnings. Do you just want to give a quick overview of where a lot of your revenue comes from and the flexibility that we have with that?
Yes, thank you, Mike. I always forget that. So our revenue comes from cable subscribers through Comcast per the agreement that we have with the cable provider. And we take 4.25% of their television revenues, which we're contractually obligated to use for the cable TV station and cable related costs. So, that's where the money comes from. We're an enterprise account per a mandate from the state to help protect that money. And we use our retained earnings, which is kind of as a capital planning, a capital expense pool. So every year, we usually have some money left over, and at the end of the fiscal year, it goes into retained earnings, then is certified, I believe, by the state. And then we could access it in the fall per the fall town meeting if we want. But it's kind of like a revolving fund in that it rolls over. So every year, we saved, I think, $40,000 last year, and it went back into that fund. And I believe
Again, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head several times. It's how we're improving this service, and I have to say that of all the different services that become crucial during this type of crisis, this pandemic, getting information out is huge. So this is an emerging capability that, look at us all today. We've been live streaming for a couple of weeks now. I see everyone is be able to participate remotely. I think that's a huge thing. And for people to understand where some of this capability comes from, it's not only the ingenuity of you and your staff, but it's also the resources that the community is unaware of, how they are made available.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks. And big kudos to Sean behind the scenes, who's keeping everything driving.
Great. And I just, I put up your cover sheet here. If you didn't have anything about the cover sheet, then we can go through each of your budget subline items.
I would just say, don't be shocked at how much is personnel. Most community TV stations or community media centers, as they go by now, is about 75% to 80% personnel costs. And they usually already have really nice equipment, so they don't need any more. And I can start here in the personnel bucket, so to speak. A couple of things we're adding this year is a station manager. I believe it was on our last fiscal year budget, but we weren't planning to get there quite yet. Our present program coordinator, who's running the show, is in line to grow into that position if he wishes. And we are also adding a marketing coordinator at $15 an hour for 19.5 a week. And Alicia is actually kind of trying out that role right now and helping us really write the description of it. Jackie and I have talked about this a lot, and we feel a really big, important part of what we do is doing event notices for organizations and so forth. And many of you don't see them unless you watch Channel 8. We also put them out on our Facebook page when appropriate. But that person can be point person for us with community organizations, and then help us build a community calendar, which we're doing under community services as well, which can be really important for everybody involved, and also help me with the Facebook feed. Alicia's been spelling me on that so I can take a day off here and there. And I think that's a very important position. So we'd like to get that funded and get that going. Any questions on this? On employee support, video training subscription is something that we subscribe to if we need to. Oh my gosh, we have to find out the way Zoom works. There's a website called lynda.com where we can get a lot of those tutorials, and that's good to do. I'd like to come back to the advanced training for the staff. We have memberships with Mass Access, which is a group of community media centers and directors. They have a very lively forum. I get information from that every day. A lot of talk about Zoom and how to live broadcast with it as well there. Chamber of Commerce memberships, we also joined Scholastic Business Association and are working on trying to establish a partnership with them. So we may have to move a couple of things around here. And as far as the training for the staff goes, I would really like to get them kind of a boot camp training. We had signed Sean up for one last year and they had to cancel it. So I really like to get out an instructor who can, our staff knows the basics of video shooting and editing and production, but they could really use a great teacher and a trainer to bring them to the next level, because we're already selling sponsorships and video production. We have video production clients and we're ready to go on some things. We just, got to get through this virus and get back to normal a little bit and crank those revenue streams up. So we're going to have to be good and we have to be a little bit better. So that's what that's there for. And we're actually hoping to tie that into a workforce development program through Mount Wachusett Community College's workforce development training program. And we're kind of seeing if the local schools are interested in participating in that as well.
Cable and community TV may be on normal.
Maybe any questions?
Just say it.
The purchase of services, we're adding social media software, something like Hootsuite, where you can actually schedule posts. So the only things we can schedule right now on Facebook is if I just put a photo up, like an event notice. I really can't share or schedule a share or anything else or something from YouTube, and this would help us immensely. So, I don't sit, and believe it or not, I don't sit in front of Facebook all day. I do other things and come back to it. And that's why we need people to spell me on that as well. Internet phone service, and that's priced out double for what we pay. We need the high-speed access, and that's also, we put more in there in case if we do go into Scout Hall, we will provide the high-speed internet service for that. We will need it. The alarms and the promotional budget I put in for, it's been cut as it was last year. I do have a promotional budget plan, and this is my fault for not getting it together earlier. And I don't know, Mike, if you want me to share it, I can show you quickly or at least read briefly what it is.
Under the promotional budget?
Yes.
Within this format, probably I don't see the need to go through it right now, but I'm definitely interested in having like a breakout session or just taking it offline and learning more.
Sure.
Okay.
So that's something that, we really don't promote ourselves, I think, enough. And if we grow our audience, it's going to help everyone. It's going to help our sponsors. It's going to help our clients. It's going to help the town government get news out. So, there are some items like T-shirts that we want for our staff should have T-shirts when we go to festivals, and we should be able to give them away. And promotions like photo contests or social media video contests. And we also have things in signage. We're willing to get the farmers market banner for Jackie under that as well. festival on the common space with, like, collateral. We want to pull back on print materials, but we still need business cards and rate cards. Facebook advertising for our sponsors, and graphics design. I could use someone to help me with logos. So that's what's in there basically, and I won't
Okay,
take up
that sounds
any time with
sounds
that.
like all good things.
Thank you. So that's that. And this is very light. Office supplies are usually DVDs and sleeves. We don't require much more. I'm always borrowing paper clips from one of the offices at Town Hall too. Miscellaneous equipment repair is the big thing. We used to have we've had this as a contingency fund. We also have equipment in a capital fund from retained earnings where I would prefer to buy it from, since I consider that a capital expense. But this is kind of in there just in case we need something quick. It needs to come out of operational, and hopefully we never use it. And the heating oil is for the light department. I did, building that we're in Baldwinville, I did notice a possible redundancy in building and grounds earlier, cited both heating oil for cable committee and maybe something else, and Scout Hall. And I think we're only going through a few $100s a year, or up to 700. So I put in more here to cover for Scout Hall, and maybe those can be combined if we get in there together.
Yeah, Adam, I would take that down as a question, something that we can run down afterwards to make sure that we don't have some redundancies, and then take a look at how we can help manage that cost.
Yeah. Right now, we're paying that bill. They're passing it on to us, so we're paying the oil at the light department barn.
Understood.
Any questions here? The intergovernmental, just a note before I forget, I think there was some consternation over this 12,864 number. That's not mine. I didn't put anything on this page because I don't feel qualified to. I think that was left over from what the town administrator put in last year, and somehow it got into that column. So I do want to commend Mr. Terenzini for putting in for 3,300 for raises. I think that would about cover us for especially minimum wage going up, and what we're paying media assistants and so forth. The only question I have on this is the IT and indirects, and I have asked, how is that figured, and is it justified? And I just don't see us having that big of a footprint, considering we're working out of a couple of closets. And also, just a note, I don't think we're on your IT plan, nor should we be, because I think there should be an air gap between our systems. So if one is infected, the other isn't infected. And we're, I think, going to look to do a virtual private network, a VPN, at some point to do that. So I don't know what that is for, and if it should be there. I would like to see that money used in a promotional budget. And the sewer minimum, we don't pay sewer at the light department, so I don't know why that's there.
Any good questions? Adam, if you can just take those notes down. Good observations.
Yeah, I wrote the notes down. Steve and I already chatted before. I know Mr. Terenzini is supposed to get back to him on a couple items. But that's about it, because he worked on this one, so I know Steve had some questions. I did get him most of the answers, but yeah, I'll circle back.
And so here's the money that would come out of the retained earnings as capital. All the rest would be operational. And the big number here are the switching kits for shoots. That should actually be a quantity of 2. They pretty much start at 10 to 11,000. You can get one in a box or buy different kits. And what they allow you to do are, 2, 3, or 4 camera shoots for, say, a talk show. So, we only use sometimes 2 cameras for Talk of the Town, as Mike has seen. And what happens is Sean goes into editing and syncs up the audio between the 2 video files, which we shouldn't be doing. That's that's kind of a Mickey Mouse approach to this. So if you have, say, you're shooting a talk show at Scout Hall, we can bring out a cart with, and 3 cameras, and you hook them all into a box. And then you can do what Sean does at Town Hall and actually on a keyboard switch from one camera to another depending on who is talking. So you can have an all-in-one box that we would take out mobile to do a shoot, say, in the region for one of our clients. And I'd look to purchase another system that maybe had components that we would use in-house. So that's what that's for. And the Scout Hall furnishings, I always figured that with the CPC money for Scout Hall, if we got in there, they may not be able to pay for our portion or any custom cabinetry we have to store things, because we want to get all the technology out of the way to make it look beautiful. And so I put in 10,000 for that. And that could also cover, say, if we want to do a video surveillance systems with some cameras inside and out. So the upgrades for cameras, tripods, et cetera, 15,000. I've put this in our capital plan for every year because we may need to buy a couple of cameras and a couple more Macintosh computers and so forth. Last year, I think we bought 2 new camera kits and 2 new Macs, and we're buying the Macs used, and the total came out near $10,000. So it's good to have that money in there. Hope we don't use it. I don't have any big plans this year besides some tripods and maybe long boom poles for microphones so we can interview people from 6 feet away. and other needs. I've been seeing them on the news. I say, oh, we may need that. The EMR relocation, this is, we've been talking about relocating our broadcast rack from the light department barn 100 feet to emergency response. If they get their building going with the CPC money, it could cost $3,000 to $5,000 to move the fiber optic connection there alone. So, personally, I don't think it's going to happen in a year because they have to get their CPC funding and the electric needs to be upgraded there. But I put it in there in case that it's fast-tracked somehow. A website build out, if you want to really satisfy sponsors, you better have a website too. I believe we can have a regional website and sell regional ads because we can't live on Templeton alone. And I think I have 5,000 this year and 5,000 the next, and that's something that we could, I would like to see that actually taught in a class in our workforce development program, if we can get that going. And then how to maintain it. So we can hire a web designer to do that and teach us all the back end of it. And the live streaming warranty is for the broadcast pick system that is in Town Hall. That costs $1,500 a year. You will see this a lot with higher end professional audio video gear. I shouldn't even say higher end. We're not using the high end stuff that the TV studios use. Any kind of professional audio video gear, and even a new server that we'd like to purchase this fiscal year, the money is there, would have, after a couple years, a $1,200 to $1,500 yearly warranty on it. And you get extra benefits with that.
I've heard that the server that you're talking about, I've heard that it's going to be something we need sooner rather than later. Is that correct?
Yes, and I've asked for it to be on an agenda. I understand that the money it was approved. I know Mr. Terenzini wanted it to be vetted by the select board. So I'm ready to purchase it. I've got the quotes. We have 3 quotes. It's under $50,000 for goods and services under Chapter 30B. So it doesn't need a formal RFP process. We're going to get it about $34,000.
Yeah, and I did talk with Steve. Mr. Chairman, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I did talk with Steve Castle about it. He did follow the process. The only thing is, because it's over 10,000, it will need a contract with Mr. Terenzini's signature and the accountant, and whichever is the lowest vendor. So I did chat with him about it. I know that server is a top priority for him. The money was approved fiscal year 20 for, I believe, $60,000 off the top of my head.
Yes.
And it did go to town meeting. It was voted upon. So I instructed Steve to do that, and hopefully he could move forward relatively soon.
Roger.
And the one I've picked out, guess what it does?
Live stream.
It streams directly from Zoom.
Oh, really?
Which is a
Nice.
happy coincidence.
Very nice.
So any questions on that?
I do have a question for you, Steve.
Yes.
When you get into Scout Hall and start doing live streaming, and hopefully maybe in the future, not too far off, town meeting included, will you be able to exit out of the old light building? And then also get Sean out of the closet and the trunk wherever he's working out
Well,
of
we're
today?
working on getting Sean out of the closet at Town Hall, and we're working on a shared community services office at the senior center, which would give him, it gives the rec department, it gives the rec department filing space that they want, and we would like just a better workspace so he could go in and do whatever video editing and programming he needs to do. The closet at Town Hall is suitable for taping a two hour or so meeting. After that, it gets a little hard to sit in it, and I don't want people working there on other tasks. There's just no elbow room, and frankly, and the floor is canted by about an inch, so you're not even working on a level surface. And he needs a proper desk for that. As far as getting out of the light department building, the hope has been to be able to go into that emergency response building. I still don't know if it will work, if it'll be adequate, even if they do that work, but we already have a worker there. Zach works there, and he's also a member of the CERT team, so that's helpful. But I like the idea of the emergency response building strategically because it is at the tail end. It's the terminus of the mass broadband fiber line that runs all the way down Baldwin Road, which we plan to use sometime for at least a municipal network. And TCTV should be there, I think, for emergency services. So it's a move of 100 feet. We wouldn't try to broadcast directly from Scout Hall because you'd have to run a dedicated fiber line that's very expensive. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. But what we're purchasing, hopefully with a new server, are going to be 3 encoders that would allow us to broadcast live from Town Hall, from the auditorium, from anywhere we take these. So we can put one in Town Hall, Scout Hall, and the auditorium, and then take one out on a field trip to a video production client and stream live there as well. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, pretty much. And I don't see us going backwards from where we have gotten to, perhaps not by choice, but I just don't see any sense going back. This is something that's been talked about, to live stream just normal selectmen's meetings with everybody out there. People can send in questions. We all know everybody's tight for time. If you're sick, you're out of town, you can't make a meeting, but you want to ask a question. We continue down this way with live streaming. It's just nothing but good things.
Yeah, and I say, kudos to everybody for bearing with us and being patient and coming to practice sessions, and like Mike said, we're still all discovering.
Steve, how long have I been asking for live stream? How long have I been asking for live stream?
You've been asking me for a while. Yeah. I do want to make it clear, though, we weren't technically capable of doing it until this year. We had to get that warranty.
I'm so excited.
So, and Sean deserves a lot of the credit for getting it going.
Yay, Sean.
Awesome.
Yay, Sean. Valuable service, wave of the future.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Other than you were able to get me to do it, so it's got to be.
I think Adam gave you tech help, huh? Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you all for doing this and bearing.
Thank you, Mr. Castle. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
All right, I've got, let's see. Right now, I have 2:34. We are only 15 minutes, approximately about 20 minutes off the mark. We have one. Hang on, I'm gonna mute my offender with the feedback. I saw who he was. Yep, he's laughing. We've got the executive, selectmen, IT, insurance, benefits, and capital left. Let's see, I'm going to stop the share on that. And I believe that brings us to page number 42 in our budget books.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Also, because we picked up the capital in each of these departments for the most part, I think we're actually ahead of schedule because I don't think we have to cover capital. Unless
Yeah,
you
I
want
would
to go back
agree.
to it.
As long as people know where it is, and if, just making sure that everything, we keep referring back to it. So you're right. I think that could wind up being brief by exception. Adam, are you taking this one?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to throw up the budget book and take it away.
This is our budget. And as you know, this office handles all the primary policy making. That's the Board of Selectmen and the Chief Executive of the town, which is also the Chief Procurement Officer, Financial Officer, Administrative Officer, as well as the HR Director. So everything has to come, for the most part, through this office before anything could get done. I mean, we hold all the contracts, we hold all the hiring documents and the like. So with that, I will just get into the fact of our goals, continue the positive financial progress. I think we can all agree that we've come a long way. We work with our financial team on a regular basis, and we check in, see how we could do things better, and continually improve, like our audits, for example, how we've come from previous audit slaps to cutting them down to just a few of them, if you will. Obviously, the successful town administrator succession plan, development of a business continuity plan, and develop a written fraud policy. That is our fiscal year 21 goals. We move to the personnel summary table. I mean, there is supplementary information there, licenses and everything else that we do in our office. Holly handles all those licenses, and she does an exceptional job at that. As you can see here, for fiscal year 21, with Mr. Terenzini's hours being reduced, he goes to 0.2. The municipal management fellow, that the position I was in before I became promoted to the assistant town administrator, has been eliminated in the fiscal year 21 budget, and we still have the other positions in there for like the executive assistant, which is Holly, and 0.5 for our clerks. It says it's in their clerk, but it could be for our interns or whatever it may be. And if we don't fill those just roll to free cash. Now we can move to our 5100. And here, this is our budget for the most part. It shows the changes, which I believe will be taking place in October. How we have it budgeted, at least with, hold here for 1 second. Me being the assistant town administrator for 17 weeks into fiscal year 21, and then moving to town administrator 35.6 weeks of the duration of the year, when Mr. Terenzini will then move to a consultant for our office. And that's really all I have. Is there any questions on this page? I mean, it's pretty much the same money divvied up between the assistant town administrator and the town administrator. So,
Adam, under student interns, $13,000 sufficient? How has that program been working?
Quite well. Usually we have them work on projects, whether, let's say, they're handling public records in the basement. Sometimes the basement gets extremely full. Because don't forget, it's not just our office putting materials down there, but the treasurer collector and anything that we can submit to the Secretary of State, because they need to get approved before we can remove certain public records. I usually will oversee that with the student interns. And that's just one project that they do. Mr. Terenzini gives them plenty of work. Holly, they'll help Holly with licenses or sending out notices or and the like. So that's pretty much, I believe we have a sufficient amount in there, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for this page?
Just the stipends for selectmen, it doesn't reflect who did or didn't take their stipend this year. It's the projected one for next year.
Terry, that's in the budget for $500 per member. Let's say if a couple of the members chose not to accept it, that would just roll to free cash.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Terry, good, that's a good question. Earlier we talked about, I forget which department was briefing. Oh, you know what? It might have been Veterans Affairs when we talked about the difference between 80 and 100. And we talked about line items at fall town meeting. That's the kind of thing where it doesn't everything automatically doesn't roll to free cash. We could wind up having transfers between accounts. In the past couple of years going to the town meeting, from our account, we actually had a few times that because of our town administrator issues, and we moved money out of there. That would be one of these kind of situations out of this account.
That is correct.
All right, I'll move on.
So moving to our 5110, this is our employee support. It's pretty much the same as last year, and really no, I don't think there was really any change to this one actually. Besides the mileage went down 45 cents.
I can say that if we, the sooner we know, in like the MMA conference in Boston, I know that we didn't spend everything from the last one that we went to, but just looking forward, and you know, Jeff, you've been a selectman before. I don't know if you've been to one of these things, but for any new staff that we wind up having, any freshmen that we wind up getting in this next election cycle, next January, I definitely say, you know, we should get as many people as we can to go to that. There's a lot of information, and you got to get to some of those breakout sessions early, and trying to run around, trying to go to all of them is difficult. So if we wind up having maximum effort, knowing what that date is far in advance, I think that's going to be good for the town, good for the board.
Is that by personal experience this year, Mike?
It is. It was tough to go to it. I think we had a lot of things, you know, we all had a lot of things going on. And I definitely went as I have to go. I want to make sure that we're represented. But it's certainly from personal experience. I've been to conferences before, not that one. And that one was a good one to go to.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So anything else on the 5110? Hearing none, I'll move to the 5200. This one is pretty much the same: legal services, employee physicals, the PO box, town forester.
Just curious about the employee physicals. How does that work out? Is it all like the town offices?
I believe it's for all the physicals that are administered through our office for town hall employees. I believe in their budgets, police and fire, they have their own lines for those off the top of my head, Terry.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Holly, if I'm off base, you could correct me because I know you handle those, so.
No, that's accurate. Police and fire. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Police and fire have their own budget for that. It's mostly town hall employees. If DPW hires someone, anyone else that doesn't have it in their budget, we cover those.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, moving to our 5,400, if I don't have any questions on the 52. This is our office supplies of 2,500, same as last year. Do I have any questions on that one? Hearing none, I'll move to our 5,600, our intergovernmental. This is the $30,000 for equity and merit raises for our town employees. Have any questions? Okay. Hearing none, I'll move to our 5,700 account. And this is pretty much the same as last year as well at 7,250 for the bottom line costs. And if I don't have any questions on that, that's pretty much our budget. I'll move to IT.
Adam, I guess this question's for anybody. Voter's guide. Why wouldn't the voter's guide be under the clerk's budget? Or is that something that we wind up? What's the word I'm looking for? That's something that we wind up sponsoring.
Yeah, this is the account that we've always had it in, and technically everything goes through our office.
All right, I understand.
Okay, any other questions on our budget, the Board of Selectmen? I'll move to the IT budget on page 81. This one you'll see was a little bit higher. We moved to managed services, which we have our issues technology wise. I'm sure everybody heard about the phones, so we're doing what we can and we're making those changes. And Holly generally keeps track of all this, so we're keeping everything in here that we need through fiscal year 21. And our new phone should be arriving, I believe, March 31st. So.
Say that again, the new phone? Oh, the new landlines.
With the new landlines for town hall, because I think that's important for the public to know in case if they think somebody hung up on them, it's more than likely because the line dropped because of the firmware upgrades that are constantly coming up, not in just our office, but all the town hall employees. So we've been working to make sure that got done, and the Board of Selectmen's aware of that, and that will be taken care of.
I bring it up a little bit as a joke, because we always joke about Carter's flip phone. The strongest two thumbs in America. But in the way of cell phones or otherwise, from who do we provide mobile phones to, and then do we specify what kind of equipment they have?
Yes, the cell phones, Holly keeps track of all of them. Holly, you want to jump in on this one? Because what we have listed for cell phones is building inspector, Board of Health, emergency management. That's you want to chime in on? I know you were working on moving the other one, so.
Yeah, just a note on the phones, they're not landlines, they're going to be VoIP phones again. It's just a better system. And those are being put in Monday in the town hall and Tuesday in the other buildings. And for the cell phones, we have building inspector, health director, emergency management, veterans officer, and we also have DPW director and his two foremen that are on the cell phones. And the way I've done it is I can usually get them a good free phone, a pretty current one. And if they want to go up a little bit, then they can pay the difference out of their budget. Generally, it's a free phone or $50. It's ridiculously discounted because it's a government account, so it's really good for the town.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and Holly is correct. That's the VoIP because it's TPX. The landlines below it, those are other offices. Thank you, Holly.
You're welcome.
Anything else on the IT? If not, we can move to page 193, the insurance and benefits. Okay, and this one, the big drivers are generally, as it says right over in here. Hold on 1 second, bear with me. Okay, the Worcester Regional Retirement System, it looks like has from last year to this year went up 55,000. And obviously our health insurance costs, those continually rise. And a lot of these are reimbursed. I mean, whatever costs are for, let's say, the water department, the light department, the sewer department, if the town picks up those costs, we're reimbursed for those. So everything's right here, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. Do you have any questions?
Adam, what was the
Diane.
percentage, what was the percentage of our medical cost increase?
Medical costs, I want to say it's that, Diane, that question's a little bit of a tricky one, only because remember last fiscal year we cut the insurance and benefits 42,500.
Mhm.
I believe I have that over here. Hold on a second. I don't want to give you a wrong answer.
And if you don't have it, that's fine, because we can take it out, you know, if you got it, you got
Yeah,
it. If you
sorry, I
don't-
forgot to ask that via email.
Yeah, and you know, part of our
I got
budget
right here
process,
on
part of
page.
our countdown includes a question and answer period. So as we collect the answers for that, I'd rather have a good answer than just anything else.
Fair enough. But they have obviously risen.
Do you have like a swag 6%?
Oh, our health insurance this year went up. It's in the back of pages here. Let's see. We put it in for 5%.
That was close.
Well, I remember they had gone down last year.
Yeah, Diana is correct. Last year we budgeted, I believe it was 6.25%. It landed lower, and we're able to make, because actually this year we were fortunate enough where we actually found out our actual number earlier on. So we didn't have to do a whole prediction and on that. So that's why this year we were able to be a lot more accurate with our number. So we used, I believe it was 4.9%. So we used 5%. Anything else?
I may have follow-on questions later. This is the section that I didn't consume prior to our budget meeting, but I'm definitely tracking with your report. I'm satisfied with the report, but as far as any other questions, especially about percentages and planning percentages, I'd have to take a look at this again. I apologize. I just didn't consume it as much as I.
That's fair enough. That way it gives us time to actually go pull out all the
Yep.
information and give you a specific answer. With that, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm all set.
All right, hang on. Let's see.
The only other capital item I could see that we probably didn't discuss, I could go to that page. 208 would be the 7,500 for the Baldwinville Elementary School for the cost for the sale. That's in capital. And I believe that's the only one that wasn't touched upon this today.
Adam, did you say 208?
208. Did I say A? I meant to say 208.
No, I heard 208. I was looking, it's down the very bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
have
see
it up
the-
on the screen now. Am I broadcasting that?
I don't see it on mine.
Oh, sorry. Larry, let me, here we go.
There it is.
$7,500 for additional cost for the Baldwinville sale.
And keep in mind, we already have a committee together for that. Bids are due, I believe, 2 p.m. March 31st. Obviously, we extended the deadline with this whole public health crisis that occurred. And we will be having, I believe it's being planned to have remote participation for the committee that's going to be looking over the our request for the proposals that do come in. And that's all I got on that one.
All right, I think we are into wrap. Adam, thanks for briefing that section. Very much appreciate that. I believe we're into a wrap-up phase. Looking at the clock, we're actually doing quite well. I think we were only back and forth. We were ahead, we were back, but we're right on track with our expected time frame. Adam, do you have any wrap-up items?
Yeah, really, I just want to get the board's feedback on, I know I have to circle back with some questions on the enterprise fund for cable. I will do that, but operating budget wise, I didn't really hear much. Where one person would be opposed to whatever item it may be in the budget. So I mean, we could have consensus on at least the operating budget. I think that will be a good thing.
Well, what I think that we've done is we've gotten to a rhythm of a good financial rhythm where department heads are coming forward with some experience working with you and Carter, and that really helps out. That rather than trying to spend time getting the department heads in line with what their budget requirements are, you guys are able to take a look at insurance and benefits and some of those things that were fluctuating and trying to move. So you're better able to make disallows that are more comfortable. Now, I will say, even though they are large budget items, over $1 million budget items for public safety, it's never fun to see any kind of disallow within their budget areas. The big elephant in the room right now, as we were briefed the other night by Monty Tech. Adam, I'm going to mute you for a sec. I'm just getting some feedback. We had Monty Tech the other night. They've dropped their number. We had a drop in pupils going over on the school choice to Monty Tech. So I believe I wrote it down the other day. Jeff, you don't happen to remember what that number was, or does anyone remember? I want to say it was about $20,000 to $30,000 lower than what we were asked to pay to
The act,
Tech.
you talking about the proposed assessment, the actual number?
That is correct. I believe it was like 20 to 30 below.
Yeah,
set.
we have it in for 622,689, and in our budget book, it is roughly, I think, 30K lower than what, because don't forget, we used the number from fiscal year 20, and then we added that 2.5% escalator. But we were fortunate where we got Monty Tech's number in before we finished up our budget.
Can we split that number between the police and the fire?
I'm afraid I don't want to. I would ask the board to hold off till Wednesday on making any decision like that, only because the Narragansett Regional School District will be presenting their budget, and we're already dipping into our overlay. So we will, with this budget, have a balanced budget, but I would seriously hope that you would hold off on making any kind of decisions with that until they come in. Would be my recommendation.
My vote. Could we make note of my vote?
Of course.
Thank you.
But yeah, Adam, you stole my thunder. That's the other elephant in the room is what Narragansett is going to come back with. Everyone's pretty much right now having a sigh of relief that it's not going to be a number that is going to force us into deadlock like last year, or that's going to force the Board of Selectmen to go into some unpopular decisions. But those are the things that are still ongoing. That's why I threw up this schedule here. So yeah, what I'd like to do is turn it over to the advisory committee for any of their final comments.
Thank you, Mike. I thought everything was very well presented. This platform worked really well. Maybe next time I'll turn my camera on. I don't know. If I get a stipend, maybe I'll do that. I'd ask Deb or Amy or Lee if they have any comments.
Hi, it's Deb. No, I thought this was good, and given the circumstances, I think the technology worked really well. It was nice to be comfortable for the day in my home and still be able to participate, so I appreciate that. But no, I thought it flowed very well too, and I appreciate that it kept on track and on time.
Thanks, Deb. Amy?
No, I don't have anything else to add, just to thank everybody for their time. I think this is changing the way things are going to be done from this point on, but thanks everybody for making it as painless as possible.
Adam, one thing I would ask, and I just looked in the emails and I don't see it, is do you have a draft warrant that you've sent to us?
I believe you received the draft warrant in your budget book, but are you saying a draft warrant sent to them?
Yeah, I'd like one electronically, please.
Oh yeah, we could send you that.
All right, send it to the whole AC, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll keep a note of that right now, Tom.
Thanks. Other than that, I know Lee's maybe driving, so he can't come in. Other than that, we're fine. Thanks, Mike. I think we're going to try to use this platform for our meeting Thursday.
Outstanding. Yeah, work with Sean and Steve. They've done a very good job being flexible, especially with the training as well. I think that those training sessions were crucial to allow everybody to kind of get in, kick the tires, and figure out how to make it work. But thanks for your committee's participation today. We appreciate it. I'd like to move on to any Board of Selectmen, soon to be referred to as the Select Board comments.
I just have one thing. I think today went well in my first budget process, and I now know a little more, and hopefully I'll retain a bunch for next year. But just looking at social media and Facebook and some of the comments Mr. Bennett, Selectman Bennett made, a red flag went off in my head, and there was a report on the news that if anybody is hurting for money, if they could be flexible and take positions that they may be overqualified for. There's a huge need at Dollar General, CVS, Stop and Shop, Amazon, and in the medical device and ventilator sector. There's jobs available for people that, may be house poor or just need supplemental income during this time of crisis.
Thanks, Terry.
If I could just add on that, Mr. Chairman, just for people to know, if they have lost their job and they are collecting for unemployment purposes, they can't actually work part-time. They're only allowed to work so many hours before it goes against their benefit. But I just wanted to touch upon that with Terry's comments.
Yeah, as they say in G.I. Joe, knowing's half the battle, right?
I hope that everybody is staying safe and staying home so as not to move the virus. But being my 7th budget cycle, this went very well. I've never done it remotely. It's nice to look upon everyone's faces. I live alone. So being sequestered goes against every grain of my being. But this budget went very well. Everybody presented very well. I don't like the lump sum disallows in public safety, but there's really nothing we can do about it. So if we can give back to them, I would like to. I'm a big advocate for them. I believe that our community services are doing very well and trying to outreach to the public at this time as much as they can with the health crisis that we're having. I've been a part of it. I've seen it. It's amazing. So everything that they're doing is greatly appreciated, I'm sure, by this board and everyone else. So those are my thoughts for today.
Thanks, Diane.
Just to I will be emailing out some information on the special road stabilization funds and the ambulance receipts fund original warrant article and the motion, so people will have that. Just have some written stuff in front of them when we talk about it at the workshop, so it's not cold. And to Diane's point, concern about the some of the write-offs, at least ambulance and fire, there's a means, a way to adjust that. And at our next meeting, I'll address that and argue for that, because there is a means to fix that, to take care of that. And I hope we get back to real in-live meetings soon. Bear told me he wants me out of the house. Everybody have a good weekend.
Fishing's good, Jeff. Fishing's real good. There's a lot of social isolation between you and the fish,
There he goes again. Jeff, I'm going to have a whole nother interview just from the Garden News on that subject alone.
It was at the end of the meeting.
You're
And
right.
I'm drinking responsibly. I'm home.
I wish I had internet at home so that I could use Zoom to see my friends.
Yeah, a lot of people have been using it. I think NRSD has actually been using it quite a bit. At this point, everyone's had a chance to wrap up. Good meeting, everybody. I hope that the public agrees with the methodology of the process, and the ability to go line by line. I think is there's a lot of people in town that prefer that. This was the venue to be able to kind of understand that. But having, after a good meeting, good internet connection for everybody, I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion.
And a second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
We'll see you next time, one way or another.
Absolutely.